Ryan had gone to his lakeside summer house for a few days of vacation. He planned to escape the intense work pace of the city and relax in a peaceful environment. To unwind and clear his mind, he had brought along a few books. He was sitting on the veranda, reading one of the books, as the day wore on. As the evening grew darker, the mist over the lake gradually thickened. Ryan took a deep breath, savoring the cool evening air. Engrossed in his book, he didn't realize it had gotten completely dark and decided to head inside. He went into the living room, sat by the fireplace, and lit a fire. The crackling of the fire and the dim light of the room gave Ryan a sense of tranquility. As he continued reading his book, he felt relaxed and peaceful. However, after a while, the silence in the room was broken. When Ryan looked up, he noticed a frail, small girl standing in front of him. She appeared to be around 5 years old, with pale skin and deep, large eyes that caught his attention. She was wearing a tattered, white dress that almost reached her ankles, with the hem slightly frayed. Her hair was wavy and disheveled, as if it hadn't been combed in a long time. The expression on the little girl's face was eerily blank, but her eyes stared vacantly at Ryan. The cold air and silence surrounding her made Ryan uneasy. The girl's presence created an unexpected and mysterious atmosphere in this peaceful setting. As the little girl silently gazed at Ryan, he felt the air in the room grow heavier. Although he was frightened by her presence, his curiosity got the better of him, and he asked why she was there. What are you doing here?" Ryan asked, looking into her emotionless eyes. The girl silently nodded and replied in a faint voice, I'm lost here." Ryan was surprised by this answer. "Lost?" he repeated, his mind racing with questions. The girl slowly sat down on a chair in the living room and shivered slightly. "Yes, once upon a time. A very long time ago," she said, her eyes wandering around the corners of the room. Ryan approached her in astonishment. "How can that be? This is a vacation house. No one stays here for long," he said. The girl shook her head slightly and remained silent for a moment. Then, in a faint voice, she added, "I don't belong here, but I got lost here." These words sent chills down Ryan's spine. The girl's presence and her words heightened the tension. At that moment, he felt a coldness in every corner of the room and lost track of time. Ryan thought the girl was lost and decided to call the police. He picked up the phone on the wall and dialed the number. After a few rings, he heard a voice. "Central Police Station. How can we help you?" Ryan began to speak anxiously. "There's a little girl here at the lakeside summer house. She has pale skin, is wearing a white dress, about 5 years old, and she says she's lost." The voice on the phone asked, "Do you know the girl's name?" When Ryan turned back to the girl, he realized she was no longer there. Confused, he looked around but found no trace of her. "Yes, just a moment. She's gone." "Where did the girl go?" he murmured. He told the police that the girl had suddenly disappeared and needed to be found. The police dispatched teams to the address Ryan provided, and they arrived at his house around midnight. They conducted a thorough search of the house and its surroundings, but neither the girl nor any other evidence was found. Ryan explained to the police what he had experienced, but he couldn't find an answer as to how the girl had disappeared. As the night wore on, he was left with the feeling that the incident wavered between reality and a dream. The next morning, there was a knock on the door. When Ryan opened it, he found a woman and her daughter standing there. The woman politely said, "Hello, excuse me, we're here looking for my daughter's lost cat. It went missing last night, and I heard it was seen around here. Have you, by any chance, seen it?" As Ryan listened to the woman, his eyes wandered to the little girl. The pale face and deep eyes of the girl he had seen last night were still vividly imprinted in his mind. Standing before the mother who claimed her daughter's cat was missing, Ryan was still uncertain about the reality of the events of the previous night. The impact of the night's events lingered, and the feelings the girl's presence had evoked disturbed him deeply. Struggling with his doubts, he was jolted back to reality by the woman's voice. The woman added, "It might sound a bit odd, but may I ask your daughter's name?" Her name is Molly. Ryan smiled slightly and replied, "Sure, Molly. Unfortunately, I didn't see anyone here last night. But if there's anything else I can do to help, please let me know." The woman thanked him and left, and Ryan continued to ponder the mystery of the girl he had seen the previous night. On his return trip from the vacation, Ryan got into his car and began driving away from the lakeside house. He was heading back to his job in the city, but the unease in his mind lingered. As the road stretched out ahead and the sun began to set, the sky darkened. Ryan caught a glimpse of movement in the rearview mirror. When he looked again, he saw the same little girl sitting in the back seat. The same pale skin, the same deep eyes, the same white dress. His heart raced. He gripped the steering wheel tightly and nearly swerved off the road. After managing to regain control of the car, he took a deep breath and looked in the mirror again. The girl was still there. Ryan, filled with fear and curiosity, turned his head to look at the back seat. The girl was silently staring at him. You're here again?" Ryan asked, trying to mask the anxiety in his voice. The girl nodded slightly. "Yes," she said, her voice calm and emotionless. Clearing his throat, Ryan continued, "Why are you here? Why are you following me?" The girl fixed her gaze on Ryan and spoke quietly. "I'm lost, remember? I told you." Ryan remembered her words and felt even more uneasy. "Yes, I remember. But you're a ghost, aren't you?" Instead of answering the question, the girl turned her head and looked out the window. They sat in silence for a moment. Ryan felt the weight of the silence. Then the girl spoke again. "Yes, I am a ghost." Ryan kept his eyes on the road and continued speaking. "So, why are you talking to me? What do you want from me?" The girl looked at Ryan again and spoke. "You saw me. No one has seen me for a long time. I can only talk to you." Ryan didn't know how to comprehend a ghost, but the girl's helplessness touched him. "So what else do you do? I mean, what do you usually do?" The girl paused for a moment and then replied, "I usually wait. Sometimes I play. Sometimes I just watch." Ryan tried to understand what the girl was saying. "Waiting? What are you waiting for?" The girl hesitated. "For something to change. Sometimes I dream. In my dreams, I'm in different places." Ryan felt a deeper curiosity. "Where do you go in your dreams?" The girl narrowed her eyes slightly, thinking, "To very far places. Colorful forests, big cities. But they're all very vague. Just like a dream." Ryan didn't know what to say to that. "And what do those dreams mean to you?" The girl thought quietly for a moment and then spoke softly. "I don't know. Maybe just an escape. Maybe just a hope." Ryan noticed the depth in her words and wanted to talk to her more. "It's nice talking to you, but there are still things I don't understand. Why are you here talking to me?" Instead of answering, the girl turned her head and looked outside. They sat in silence for a while. Ryan felt the weight of the silence. The girl's presence and words filled his mind with many questions. While trying to find answers to these questions, he felt the atmosphere in the car change for a moment. Ryan looked in the rearview mirror again and saw that the girl had disappeared. His heart began to race, and he turned to look at the back seat, but the girl was nowhere to be seen. The girl, who had been there just a few seconds ago, had suddenly vanished. He pulled the car over, took deep breaths, and tried to calm down. As he tried to understand whether what he had seen was real or just a figment of his imagination, he was left alone with the questions swirling in his mind. He couldn't comprehend why and how the girl had disappeared. After the strange incident in his car on his return trip, Ryan tried to resume his life as usual. However, the image of the little girl lingered in the back of his mind. As time passed, he heard no news about the girl and grew increasingly uncertain about the reality of the events he had experienced. One day, he learned that Molly, the little girl he had met during his vacation by the lake, had died exactly on her 5th birthday. Upon hearing this news, he felt a deep sadness and decided to attend the funeral. He wanted to support Molly's family and perhaps learn something about the strange events he had experienced. The day of the funeral was dark and cloudy. As Ryan walked toward Molly's family home, He felt the weight in his heart. Inside the house, he had the opportunity to speak with Molly's mother. The woman, with tears in her eyes, approached Ryan and invited him in. The woman wiped her tears and replied, "Thank you. Losing her has been very difficult for us." Ryan hesitated and then continued, "I want to know what happened to Molly. I'm really sorry." The woman took a deep breath and looked at Ryan. Molly had been sick for about a year. The doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. Over time, she weakened and lost all her energy. She couldn't hold on any longer on her last birthday. Hearing these words, Ryan felt a pang in his heart. Molly was a very special girl. I only knew her for a short time, but that was enough to understand how special she was. The woman smiled slightly and held Ryan's hand. Yes, Molly was a very special child. Every moment we spent with her was a treasure for us. But unfortunately, we couldn't find a cure for her illness. After this painful conversation with Molly's mother, Ryan left to go home. On the way, he thought about the difficulties Molly had faced in her last days. When he got into his car, he glanced at the rearview mirror for a moment, but this time the back seat was empty. He felt a deep void and sadness inside. When Ryan returned home from the funeral, he wearily took off his jacket and threw it over the back of the chair. As he sat down and ran his hands through his hair, he closed his eyes. At that moment, the silence in the room was broken once again, and he felt a presence. Ryan slowly opened his eyes. Sitting on the couch was the ghost girl with her pale skin and wavy hair. Ryan felt his heart start to race but forced himself to remain outwardly calm. As Ryan sat across from the girl in silence, her presence still felt surreal to him. His heart continued to pound, but after a while he decided to speak. "What's your name?" he asked, looking carefully at her face. The girl tilted her head slightly and quietly replied, "My name is Lily." Ryan smiled slightly when he heard her name. "Lily, that's a beautiful name. Lily, where did you live before?" The girl hesitated for a moment and then turned her eyes to Ryan. "I don't know. This place doesn't belong to me, but I got lost here. Maybe I don't belong anywhere." Ryan, trying to understand her words, asked curiously, "How can I communicate with you? Am I the only one who can see you?" The girl nodded. "Yes, only you can see me. The others, they don't see me." Ryan was surprised by this answer but also felt something. "Why did you choose me? Why are you talking to me?" The girl turned her eyes to the corners of the room again and spoke softly. "You're different. I like you, Ryan. Talking to you is an escape for me." Ryan, trying to understand the girl's feelings, felt an internal turmoil. "Lily, please help me. Help me understand what's going on." The girl was silent for a moment and then spoke with a sad expression. "I'm waiting for something to change, Ryan, but I don't know what." Hearing the sorrow in her voice, Ryan approached her and placed his hand on her shoulder. "Maybe I need to help you understand. Lily, how can I help you?" The girl shook her head slightly. "I just want to talk to you. I don't want anything else." These words deeply affected Ryan. As helpless as he felt in front of the girl, he also felt that he could support her. "All right, Lily, we can keep talking," he said in a calm voice. However, right after this moment, Ryan glanced outside for a moment. When he turned back, he realized that Lily had disappeared. "Lily?" he called out, but the room was empty. Ryan looked around but found no trace of the girl. He sat down, puzzled, and wondered when she would return. More than a year had passed. Unable to see Lily, the ghost girl, Ryan went to work one normal workday. After sitting at his desk and turning on his computer, his colleague Sarah came over and started chatting with him. Sarah mentioned that her daughter had been getting sick frequently and that they needed to take her to the doctor after work, but their car had broken down. Seeing Sarah's concern, Ryan asked, "Your car broke down? What kind of problem is it?" Sarah smiled slightly and replied, "Yes, unfortunately. I guess this season brings these little surprises. My daughter needs to see the doctor soon, but it won't happen with this car." Ryan thought for a moment and then offered, "I can take you to the hospital. I can bring your car in for repairs after." Sarah was pleased with the offer. "Really? That's very kind of you, Ryan. It would be a big help. I'm worried about my daughter. After work, Ryan waited in front of the office for Sarah and her daughter. As he watched the people around him, his eyes caught something. A little girl was walking a little ahead. She looked a lot like Lily. Pale skin, frail body, and wavy hair, but this girl was different. When Ryan saw her, he had a strange feeling. His heart started to race, and many questions filled his mind. When Sarah brought her daughter to Ryan, he smiled and greeted the girl. "Hello, I'm Ryan. Nice to meet you," he said kindly. The girl nodded gently but said nothing. Her eyes locked onto Ryan's, and she continued to stare silently. Sarah explained her daughter's condition and thanked Ryan. "Thank you so much, Ryan. You really helped a lot. I hope they fix our car soon." Ryan smiled and replied, "You're welcome, Sarah. Health is the most important thing. I'm glad I could help." Sarah v. Lily headed to the hospital, while Ryan spent the remaining time in front of his workplace, lost in thought. The presence of this girl who resembled Lily was strange and troubling for him. He felt something stirring inside him but couldn't quite understand what it was. The silence of the girl who looked like Lily in contrast to her mother's crying and Ryan's mixed emotions created a heavy atmosphere in the car. Sarah's sobs deepened with the reality that the doctors couldn't find a solution. Ryan gripped the steering wheel tightly, feeling his heart race. The memory of Lily and the resemblance of this girl started to disturb him. But it wasn't the right time to talk. Supporting Sarah and sharing her pain was the priority. As the car moved quietly, Ryan occasionally glanced at the pale face of the girl who looked just like Lily. The girl sat silently, watching her surroundings without speaking. Sarah's tears and the silence only intensified the heavy atmosphere inside the car. When they finally reached their home, Ryan got out of the car and opened the door for Sarah. Sarah, wiping her tears with difficulty, thanked him and took her daughter inside. As Ryan drove away, he was left alone with his complex emotions. The similarity between Lily's memory and this girl stood as a mystery to him. He had countless questions in his mind, but finding the answers would take time. Ryan was invited to the birthday celebration of the girl who looked like Lily, who was turning 5. On the day of the party, he still carried mixed emotions. Sarah, with a slight smile, invited him inside. Inside, there was a small group of people, only close family friends and a few children. Ryan handed his gift to Sarah with a sincere smile, saying, "Happy birthday. I hope you like it." Sarah thanked him, and Ryan noticed a fleeting sadness in her eyes, indicating how meaningful this was for her. After wandering around the room for a bit, Ryan saw the girl who looked like Lily. She sat quietly in a corner, watching her surroundings. Ryan approached her gently, saying, "Hello, girl who looks like Lily. Happy birthday." The girl nodded slightly and thanked him silently with her eyes. Despite still being shocked by the resemblance and her silence, Ryan returned her gesture with a warm smile. Throughout the party, Ryan chatted with Sarah and other guests, ate, and cut the birthday cake. However, the mystery and the presence of this girl remained a secret to him. He needed more time and perhaps more interaction with this girl to understand what was going on. When Ryan saw the little girl fainting, he panicked. With Sarah begging through her tears, they quickly got into the car and headed to the hospital. Ryan gripped the steering wheel tightly, feeling like his heart was about to burst out of his chest. The pale face of the little girl overlapped with the silhouette of Lily in his mind. Upon reaching the hospital, doctors and nurses rushing under the bright lights of the emergency room immediately took the little girl inside. Ryan tried to console Sarah while dealing with his deep concern and sadness. Minutes felt like hours as they waited for the emergency room door to open. Finally, the doctor opened the door and approached them with heavy steps. The sadness on his face told them everything before he even spoke. Sarah collapsed to the ground in tears, devastated by the news. Ryan stood by her, trying to support her, but he felt a deep emptiness inside. The loss of the little girl had left a deep scar on his heart. When Ryan returned home at midnight, he was utterly exhausted. After closing the door, he collapsed onto the couch. The relentless thoughts in his mind and the pain in his heart led him into an internal chaos. As he sat alone in the room, he suddenly felt a chill. When he lifted his head, he saw the ghost girl in front of him again. In that moment, all his anger and sorrow erupted. Tears in his eyes, his voice trembling, he shouted, "This is your fault. You did this. That girl's death is because of you." The ghost girl remained silent in the face of Ryan's accusations. She looked at him with deep, sorrowful eyes, as if sharing his pain and anger. However, her expression conveyed that Ryan's accusations were in vain. Ryan, growing angrier at her silence, stood up. "Why are you here? Why won't you leave me alone?" he shouted. "I tried to help you, but now everything is worse." The ghost girl took a step towards Ryan. She reached out her hands and spoke in a sad voice. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm here to ask for help." Ryan, somewhat calmed by her words but still feeling anger and pain, asked, "What help? Your presence makes everything worse." His voice trembling, the ghost girl lowered her gaze. "I'm lost. My soul can't find peace. I can only see you and talk to you." Ryan, slowly calming down but still feeling mixed emotions, asked, "So, what do you want me to do? How can I help you?" His voice had shifted from anger to curiosity and helplessness. The ghost girl looked up at Ryan. "I want you to bring me peace, but I don't know how. I just trust you." Ryan took a deep breath and sat back down on the couch. He thought about what the ghost girl had said and tried to figure out how he could help her. He felt that they needed to find a solution together, but he didn't know where this journey would lead. The ghost girl's eyes were filled with deep sorrow. She took another step towards Ryan and began to speak in a low voice. "When I was little, my parents divorced," she said, her eyes fixed on the ground. "My father wasn't a good man. He took me away from my mother and sent me to an orphanage. It was terrible there. I was always scared, and no one understood me." Ryan felt a deep sadness as he listened to the girl's story. He could feel the pain and struggles she had endured. "One day, I decided to run away to my mother," the girl continued, her voice trembling. "But I don't remember what happened next. There's just a blank. I don't know what happened." Ryan saw the tears welling up in the girl's eyes. The traumas and pains she had experienced explained why her presence was so restless. When her voice faltered, silence fell over the room. Then the girl began to cry, trying to speak through her sobs, but her words became incomprehensible. "Mom!" the girl whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Mom!" Ryan felt her pain deeply. He wanted to help her, but he didn't know how. He wanted to ease her suffering and bring her peace, but he didn't know how to do it. Suddenly, the girl's sobs stopped, and he felt a chill in the room. When Ryan squinted, he saw the girl slowly disappearing. The room returned to its usual silence, but this time it was heavier. Ryan was left alone, but the deep marks left by the girl's story remained within him. As Ryan sat in his chair, he thought about the girl's suffering and how he could help bring her peace. This story was not just about a ghost's quest for peace, but also Ryan's own internal journey. Understanding and solving this mystery would guide him to help the girl find peace. Ryan was determined to uncover the ghost girl's story. To better understand what she had experienced, he began researching past tragedies, missing children, and old family dramas connected to the summer house by the lake. He wanted to know who the girl was, why she was there, and how he could help her. One day, he saw the young daughter of the family living on the upper floor. She was about 4 or 5 years old and immediately caught Ryan's attention. He saw familiar traces of the ghost girl in this girl's face. The same pale complexion, deep eyes, and unsettling expression. Ryan felt there was a connection between this girl and the ghost girl. The little girl's name was Lily, and Ryan decided to talk to her to gather more information. Lily was a quiet and shy child, but Ryan's gentle approach helped her relax a bit. Lily mentioned seeing and hearing frightening things in the house from time to time. Ryan thought these incidents might be connected to the restless spirit of the ghost girl. As Ryan continued his research into the ghost girl's story, he found an article about a tragic tale of a young girl in old newspaper archives. According to the article, years ago, A girl sent to an orphanage by her father after her parents divorced had disappeared and was never found again. This story matched what the ghost girl had described. Ryan had finally uncovered the girl's identity and her experiences. Ryan decided to visit the orphanage where the ghost girl had been sent. Upon arrival, he spoke with an elderly woman who had been a nurse there. The woman recounted that the girl had been sent to the orphanage at the age of 4. During her stay, the girl had become frail, her face had turned pale, and she had frequently fallen ill. Her father had never shown any interest, and a court order had prevented her mother from seeing her daughter. The elderly nurse, her eyes filled with tears, continued. The girl's mother withered away day by day, unable to see her daughter, and eventually died from grief. When the little girl learned of this, she was devastated. She decided to run away from the orphanage to be with her mother. On her 5th birthday, she disappeared, and no one ever heard from her again. Ryan's heart ached upon hearing this tragic story. He realized that the ghost girl had endured a childhood filled with the sorrow of her mother's death and her father's neglect. He knew he had to do something to help her find peace and bring an end to her tragedy. Ryan tightly held the hand of his upstairs neighbor's daughter with trembling hands. They stood at the dark corner of the cemetery, beside the grave of the ghost girl's mother. The wind rustled the branches of trees, and the cold air between the gravestones sent shivers down Ryan's spine. The ghost girl's eyes were filled with tears, yet her face bore a peaceful expression. "Thank you," the ghost girl said, looking into Ryan's eyes, "for reuniting me with my mother." At that moment, the ghost girl's body began to gradually fade away, rising like a thin layer of mist slipping from Ryan's grasp. Ryan felt her hand slip away from his. The ghost girl glided towards her mother's grave. She stood beside it, smiled back at Ryan one last time. "Goodbye," she softly said. Suddenly, the ghost girl's body vanished in a burst of bright light. For a brief moment, a dazzling glow spread around. Then everything returned to the familiar darkness. Silence settled over the cemetery. Ryan took a deep breath, trying to process everything that had happened. The daughter of his neighbor came closer and held his hand. Both of them knew that the ghost girl had found peace. They felt a strange sense of relief within them. They stood at the grave for a while longer. With the peace of knowing the ghost girl had reunited with her mother, Ryan left the cemetery. Since that day, no one saw the ghost girl again. Yet, every night as Ryan looked up at the stars, he could feel that the ghost girl was at peace and reunited with her mother.